semua.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this broadcast. My name is Adi Amirul Izzat, and I will be your host for tonight. I hope that everyone is doing fine and always keep everything clean. As you all know, the movement control order is extended until April of 28th. So up until further notice, please do not roam around without any reason, or Abang and Kakak police will pick you up for a ride around town. So if you do have a reason to go out, please clean and sanitize after you get home or while you are out there. The reason why we are doing this series of program because JPO think this will be able to uplift the spirit of everyone in this period of long lockdown. So please help us to do the polling, and if you have any question to ask, please type them in the Q&A below. JP are indeed very honored to be able to invite Mr. Cheng Kok as our special guest for tonight. So here are summarization of his biography. Here you go. So, Mr. Cheng Kok is currently working as a percussionist or timpanist in the National Symphony Orchestra based in Istana Budaya, Malaysia. He is also a music educator of various school and university orchestra. As an active percussionist, Mr. Chia has either performed or conducted in numerous concert, music festivals, and commercial video shootings such as the Japanese International Music Festival Tokyo, Japan Shizuoka Symphonic Band Music Festival, CIUCT International Music Festival in Taiwan. He also played ensemble music, chamber music, musical, and opera theater with the Asian China Youth Symphony Orchestra at Cambodia, Angkor Wat, Malaysia Philharmonic Orchestra MPO, PJ Symphony Band, KL Pek Symphony Band, and other orchestra and band. In year 2013, Chia founded the pioneer percussion ensemble in Malaysia, Percussion Ensemble of National Symphony Orchestra, PENSO, with the support of the National Symphony Orchestra Malaysia and JS Music. PENSO comprise of 11 members who are mostly teacher and university students. In year 2015 and 2017, PENSO had won the champion in the Winter Guard International, WGI, in International Open category and National Open category in Malaysia, with the collaboration with the well-known drumline Battery Heads. So without further ado, let us invite Mr. Cheng Kok for the interview. Hello, Mr. Chia, are you there?
Hello, I'm here. Yeah.
Hi.
Hey,
How
thanks,
are you?
Adi. Yeah, I'm good. Right.
You're good. So,
Yeah.
so this coronavirus has been taking most of our time in this music industry. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But I
So,
think we are doing quite great now, right?
yeah.
So we have this type of section. Like, hope
Yes.
we can see everyone here. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
so today's topic is about percussion basic technique and application. Can you share about your experience on this topic, and do tell us about the
Mm.
video we have seen at the beginning of the webinar?
Okay, sure. So we talk about the video first. The first performance is at One Utama. We've been invited to perform in the I think it's the Ramadan time last year. So we did some local music, and that's the first try for us to rearrange and compose some special sound effect by using this drum here. It's called a hang
Mhm.
drum, and then we did a performance, and it's really turned out really great. Right. The second performance I did with Xiu Yan. So the piece is called Losa, and it's a duet for vibraphone and marimba. So the next one is a double concerto, which is I performed together with Anne. This is a double concerto named Long Nian Xing Shiji. It's a Chinese orchestra concerto. So basically, the double concerto for percussion on Western percussion and Chinese percussion instruments. The next one is what is that? I think is the next one is the AJL, actually the Anugerah, right?
Jora,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, Joy Ragu, that's right. So
So you were playing
I've been
timpani,
very
right?
honored. Yeah, that's right. Very honored to be invited by Dayang No Faiza to perform this. Also the first time like staging a timpani, featuring timpani and a violinist on the stage. So it's really fun and really enjoyed that. I think the next one is the WGI competition, which is the one that we went for the badminton court, and now they I think they dismantled the badminton court already. So that is the 2017 Abiotic performance together with Battery Heads. We did a really great job on that. Like the whole performance is only about 10 minutes, and it's really huge impact of how to set it up, and all these things, the stuff that I'm going to talk about in this basic technique that I'm going to apply for our percussion journey. All right, and I think that's all. Is it?
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's all. That's all right. Yeah.
so how
Mhm.
many type of percussion instrument do you play?
So a lot of what is that? A lot of people asked me about this question like long time ago.
Mhm.
Basically, percussion family is huge. Like, there's a lot of instruments. If you ask me to count it, I really don't know how many types of instruments I have. Like, I've been
Yeah,
played
that's
before.
really a lot.
Yeah, that's right. That's really a lot. Like the percussion instruments that you can hit, you can spin, you can blow. There's the
Yeah.
effect sound. Just
Mhm.
whatever I can say is like percussionists, they try the best to make the very nice tone as possible to fit in the music. Right. Mhm.
All right. So
Okay. Yeah.
the most which
Mhm.
percussion instrument that you play the most?
Uh, in my orchestra, actually, I play the most is the timpani.
Timpani.
Because National Symphony Orchestra, usually we play most of the repertoire from the Baroque period to classical or maybe early Romantic period. So usually they require just the timpani for the orchestra. Yeah. But like when I was in school, I love to play the snare drum. And then after that, when I graduate from school, I really love to play the marimba because I think of like, marimba can create a lot of melody sound, solo instruments that I can play any type of solo playing music. Yeah. So I can just study any score for it. Yeah.
Okay, so about your journey in percussion
Mhm.
instruments. So how do you start, and why did
Ah,
you pick it up?
yeah, that's really long long time
So,
ago. So I started my percussion this journey is like it's one of a coincidence actually, because I don't really know nowadays are they going are the student having a music class anymore. Last time when I was in a primary school, I have my school music class, like it's in the academic school music class. So basically we have the choice to choose playing uh, pianica, right? Yeah,
mhm.
and recorder. So that time I choose recorder, the alto recorder, the smallest one. And then somehow, don't know why, my teacher just asked me like, "Hey, you look quite big size, you should try out something else, right? Why not you try the bass recorder?" And that time was like, wow, that's huge. Like the whole class, no people use that. I'm the only one that played it. I was like, wow, that's really great. And then somehow not even one class, my teacher started to say like, hey, why not I have something special behind there. Do you see the red color wooden round thing? Like, I was like, okay, what is that? Like, so that's the bass drum. So
Wow.
he asked me to, okay, why not you just pick it up and play? I said like, all right, that's great. And then I pick up the sticks. I don't even know what I'm supposed to play.
Mhm.
And the teacher just asked me like, don't worry. Whenever I move my hand, you hit. And then I said like, all right, that's great. So my teacher start to move the hand, I hit, and that's my how I started my percussion instrument journey actually. Yeah, that is on the secondary class. I mean, after that, I started to join the band in the school, in the secondary school. I started to realize, wow, there's a lot of things to discover. Percussion family is huge. It's not only the bass drum. So, and then I start to pick up the rudiments, the idea on how to play and apply to all those instruments. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's move to
Hmm.
about the topic for today. So
Hmm.
how to apply the basic to the instrument?
Okay. So this is uh, if let's say you are the percussionist and timpanist, right? We all know the basic are very important. Um, the basic that I mean is not about the rudiments and how fast your hand is going to move and all that. So
Mhm.
basically, what I mean here is like the basic of knowledge on understanding how to prepare the instruments, how to set up your instruments, your posture, right? And then when you're going to start up your hand to play the good tone. You know, this
Mhm.
is all the basic that we talk about. It's not about the speed that you want to create on your hand. Like a lot of students make a really huge mistake of doing this thing. They thought of like, okay, I want to practice my basic. So the problem is student they don't realize whenever you have the instruments which is not prepared well, you you are basically creating a very bad posture for your hand or your maybe your body. So a lot of time a lot of students ask me like, hey, how come I cannot play this, how come I cannot play that? Like it's not because of you are not able to play this, just because you are not well prepared. You don't know what you want to uh, use and apply on it. So that is the huge mistake that we as percussionists that always make. So the basic is very important on this type of things. Like you really have to know how to prepare yourself well, right? So rudiments is one part of it. Like rudiments is the one that help you to make your hand balance, so left and right hand, so that you have a balanced hand and you can create a good quality of sentences of sound, the rhythms. Yeah. Yeah. Adi, is it good? Right? Do you
All right,
understand?
thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I get it. So
Mhm.
is
All right.
there any
Mhm.
more that you want to share about the basics?
I mean, we if you ask me about like example like this period like in MCO time, a
Mhm.
lot of also a lot of student message me like ask me like, hey, what you do if you don't have instruments at home,
Yeah, yeah.
you don't have you don't have the access for stuff like this, so what you do? So I will say like if you have a pair of drumsticks, if you have a practice pad, even though you don't have a
Mhm.
practice pad, maybe you can use a cloth or laying down on the floor. You know,
The floor.
you
Mhm.
can yeah. I mean, you can just start your rudiments practice. Build out your strengths on your wrist and your finger, so that you can play a lot of repertoire in future, right? One of the most important things is like I realize a lot of percussionists we lack of reading notation. So I think this is a very good time for us to study our score. Now, a notation is just like reading the books. Like if you read more, then you'll get the idea of reading it faster. Yeah.
Mhm.
So when I mean, especially when the MC will finish, then maybe it will help you a lot. So
True.
that when you read that time, you can get like very smooth to read up, and then you know how to apply it on all the hands gesture. So rudiments, I didn't say like it's not important, but it's part of it. It's one part of it is like quite important, because when you know which type of rhythms you can use, which type of rudiments to apply on it, then you play very smooth on the percussion instruments in future. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Right.
Thank you for that. All right.
Okay.
So for the next question, so what
Mhm.
is the motivation for you to keep performing and practice?
This is great. Right. I mean, people, the ensemble. Yeah. I love to perform. I love to make music together with my friends. And I mean, uh, I always think of the people that perform with me is all my friends. Like if you look at all those pictures, even though they are my student, or maybe they are teachers or somewhere, like we are like uh friends, a family that creating the music together. uh Listening and performing the music are joy, fun. The most important things is the fun. So
Mm.
the whole group is like we having the direction, like we know like what we want to enjoy the moment together, we want to perform together, we want to let the audience know that uh what type of music we are performing, and then what type of story that we going to tell. And so that everyone start to get involved together. It's just like you're watching a movie, like you want to you want to understand like what is the story indeed and all that, right? So that is the very exciting and very joyful things to do together. Yeah, so that
Mhm.
is my motivation. Like I really love that idea. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It must be
Mhm.
nice to perform for people, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what
Mhm.
is your view on reaching out to perform and teach, especially to those underprivileged people?
Yeah, well, I should say nothing is impossible.
Okay.
Right. So the only thing that the things that very important is like you must enjoy doing it, right? If I mean, recently I have the chance to get involved with several special needs association student, and people that have a limited movement. um, but this all this thing doesn't stop um, people like this to enjoy music. I mean, it's one type of language. Music is a language that can be international communicate. Like you don't even need to know about like uh what is the culture, or uh what is the person speaking. Like we basically can play the music together internationally. So uh I think it's like, again, enjoying and making fun is one of the big privilege for us to perform together, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, like, having fun is always my key of point.
Yes, of
And
course.
then I really hope this social distance cleared up as soon as possible. Right? I mean, making music is together. Like we have the joy together, we perform together. I mean, that is the things that I always look into it, right?
Mhm.
And then if you ask me about the repertoire that can reach out for the underprivileged people, especially for the orchestra or maybe the band or something, you can look into quite a number of repertoire which is not require instruments at all. Also, maybe something that can use table, chairs, some toys, even the balloon to do a performance. I mean, there's plenty of music like this that can be
Mhm.
performed. Yeah.
Okay, so for the
Okay.
last question for this interview,
Yeah.
what
Hmm.
advice would you give to the Jesselton Philharmonic Orchestra, an organization with limited funding and doing
Hmm.
activities like the outreach program besides organizing concerts, workshop, and music camp?
Hmm. All right. I mean, firstly, I would like to say thank you to JPO for inviting me to this
Mhm.
interview. Uh, Whenever I travel to schools or maybe artist orchestra or maybe some community orchestra or community band, I always will suggest to the groups, maybe they can organize the um, percussion ensemble to form a percussion ensemble with their percussion needs. Uh, as we know, if you are a percussionist or you are a band member, percussion band member, also you some of the repertoire that the director choose might be only involving one person or maybe two-person. So there's a lot of player. There's nothing to do behind, and they just sit there, throughout the entire rehearsal. So to form a percussion ensemble is one of the big idea, since we already have some of the instruments like some basic instruments, timpani, snare drum, bass drum. Even though if you don't have all these instruments, it's not a big problem, because with the table, with the chair, with the balloon that I mentioned, we can do a lot of percussion ensemble playing. So I think this is one of a good idea for the school or student. If you think of like, hey, every time when I go to band practice and there's no motivation because of nothing involve me, I always sit there and do nothing, right? Maybe you can start with this type of idea, like performing. I mean, not. I mean, practice the percussion ensemble pieces and so on and so on, right?
I see. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
now let's move on to
Yep.
the Q and
Mm-hmm.
A.
Yep.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so for the first question,
Mm-hmm.
do you have any advice to all beginners who learn timpani by himself or herself?
App-wise, firstly, I will say, uh, make sure you understand the notation for the first time. I mean, if let's say you, especially in this period, I mean, you don't have the time. I mean, you don't have the access on the instruments. Uh, Maybe you can spend a little bit of the time to understand the notation, the bass clef, and then how what type of notation is written inside that, and then you can start to position in different setup. Either you are using a German or American setup,
Mhm.
uh, just to practice a simple what is that? The simple position of your hand gesture, left and right. So the timpani actually quite challenging, like especially if you are right-hander and then you are using an American setup, because we tends to have the biggest drum on our left and then the smaller drum on our right-hand side. But everything that you start is right hand, so you are right-hander, and then you realize there's a lot of cross stick involved, which is making you sort of confused, like your hand, you don't know what to do and all this. So maybe you can put some time and try to figure out this thing for the beginner. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay,
Right.
thank you. All right,
Hmm.
so for the next question, how to change the note fastly on timpani with any noise like B to E?
With any noise, what I
Yeah,
think you mean is without any noise, is it? All right. But okay,
maybe.
how to change the note faster? If let's say your timpani there's noise like quicking sound, or maybe some, what is that, like a cracking sound, probably this is because of the setup on the instruments. It's not because of the playing skill. So
Mhm.
as I mentioned before, the basic that we have to look into it is to, you have to make sure your instruments is in good condition so that uh, you can you can avoid on all these things happen. Yeah. So faster notes to to move from B to E, that is the training from your legs actually. If let's say you are using the pedal timpani, so not the hand grinding timpani. Yeah. So the pedal timpani basically is like a practice on driving a car. Yeah.
Mhm.
So if let's say you drive a car, you will know in consciously your brain will tell you by pressing this much of throttle, and then your car can speed up in this way. So practicing on changing note is the same concept like you are doing this driving car concept. If let's say you are not driving car, it's the same thing like you writing. Right. Last time, if you recall back when you're primary school, you write, teacher will give you like, hey, can you write 100 times of A, letter A, and then you start to practice that, and you start to realize, okay, this is the faster way for me to write the A. So this is the same way that we practice our timpani paddling. Yeah.
Okay, so
Mhm.
for the next question by
Okay.
Uwe Surin. So, what
Mhm.
kind of warm up will you do before playing the timpani?
Oh, that's great. Okay. I always do few warm up. I mean, not the fancy type of warm up. I The first thing that I always start always is the 8 on hand, which
Mhm.
is the 8 time on right hand, 8 time on left hand, and then increase the speed. After that, I will start to practice my single strokes, which is the semi-quiver practices. If let's say I have a four timpani, I will practice my semi-quiver starting from my right hand on the smaller drum towards the left, and then go back, and then I will do the quiver practice, and then go back and single what is that, the crochet practice, and of course the triplet practice as well with the cross stick and without cross sticks. Yeah, that is one of uh things that I will do for my warm up. And then in my orchestra time, I always cover my timpani when I do a warm up, like without sound producing. Like not the booming type. So I will use
Mhm.
some cloth or maybe some what is that, the cover for the timpani, so that I won't interferes on the brass member, or else they will just turn their head around and start to give you some space. The phrase that saying, "Hey, you are too loud" or something like that. All right. Yeah.
Okay,
So that's the
thanks.
warm up. Mm-hmm.
All right. I hope that answers the question.
Mm-hmm.
Uwe. Okay, for the next question, is it
Mm-hmm.
important that memories a little bit pieces in the score when you are prepared or rehearsal?
Ah, I see. All right. I think it's memorizing, right?
Mhm.
So, it's always good to memorize. I will say it's always good to memorize, but uh, again, when I come to, when I was young last time, I realized like my memory is like very good. I will feel like, okay, every time I should memorize this. I should memorize the solo. I should memorize this concerto or something. But
Mhm.
somehow I realized even like me myself, I will have a stage fright. Like uh, when you go on stage and you want to perform there, especially when you want to perform solo, you start to realize when you start to stand on the instruments itself, you start to get nervous. Memorizing the pieces, somehow, sometime you get tweeted and suddenly you forgot the whole sentences.
Mhm.
So to prevent this thing happen, I always have my score ready. But memorizing the music is one of the good things. What I mean is that you doesn't need to memorize the whole entire concerto or maybe the entire pieces, but consciously your brain, when you look at the score itself. Example, like the one line, the first line or second line, that's 8 bar or maybe 4 bars. Immediately your brain works like a camera. You snapshot that in that particular period, and then you can have the idea of having this memorizing for the short term, and it helps you a lot actually. Why I say so? Because especially when you have a lot of instruments to take care of, you definitely need these skills. Like if you recall back, your teacher teach you how to read the score. Your teacher won't teach you on the spot when you read this note, you play that note. No, it's always your teacher will ask you read ahead, like maybe 1 bar ahead or maybe 2 notes ahead before you play your music, so that you can prepare what is going on the next things that you want to play on your instruments. Yeah, I hope this will help you a lot, right?
All right. Thank you. Now,
Mhm.
from Ashton Chan, how to
Mhm.
practice or improve mallet instruments playing when you don't even have the access to the instruments?
Aha, okay. So this is a very tricky question.
Mhm.
Uh, I used to have this problem uh, when I was in secondary. I mean, even in a secondary school, primary don't have. Um, yes, what I did is like I'm quite lucky because my sister is learning the organ, so I have organ at my home. So instead of using 2 sticks to hit, I use 2 finger to do on the keyboard or
Okay.
maybe on the piano. So that that is one of the way, if you don't have the access on the instruments, uh one of practice that you can do for yourself. I mean, uh if you're talking about mallet instruments, if you don't have the instruments, it's very difficult to learn the positions. Um, a lot of people ask me, it's like, hey, why is it uh, even the pianist, if let's say the first time, if you give them 2 sticks, even though a very good pianist, when they start to stand on the mallet's percussion, they start to realize it's not easy to hit on the correct note. So one of the reasons is because a piano, we have the feeling on the finger. So we know that when we place it, we know which note that we're going to hit and we're going to press. But when you hold 2 sticks and it's floating on the air, basically whichever movement you move, you don't know what notes you are hitting. So that is the difficulty on it. If you are talking about you want to practice the accuracy on hitting on the notation, one of the ideas that you can use drawing paper, which is there's no sound on the paper, but you draw the boxes so that you really focus on you're hitting on what notes and what notes. Yeah. So if let's say you have an access on a piano and you prefer to listen to the sound and you know what you're playing, maybe you can use this technique to learn about the positions, right? I'm not talking about learning the character or maybe the tone color of the instruments, because it's impossible. If you don't have that instruments, you can't do this. Yeah, so you basically you can practice some of the basic, maybe part of the basic of the position of the instruments. Yeah, so that's my suggestions on it, right?
Okay, thank you. Now, a question from YouTube, from
Mhm.
the Facebook. I noticed that
Oh,
you are 3D printing a lot of face shield. Would you like to share
uh-huh.
with us about that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, because of the MCO period, and then I I do this 3D printing just to help out on our fine liner. So if you look at it, this is a face shell that we do for fun. I mean, especially for the hospital people, right?
Mhm.
Maybe you can see it.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So that's the this is the we call it the wiser tool, another type of face shield. Um, basically after the first few weeks of providing a different type of facial like this, uh, the 3D groups people start to suggest like, hey, maybe we just do something that's more lighter, more safe on the filament. We call this the filament, the printing material, so that it's because nowadays the hospital use this in only one time. So after they use it on that day, they will just throw it away because of the virus infection, and they don't have the time to do disinfect. Um, the I just got a message from the 3D groups, and we really the frontline, they are really in needs on all this stuff. Like if let's say you have a 3D printer, maybe you can start to help out, um, and print this. You can get this template in 3D printing Malaysia. So basically they shared it for free.
Mhm.
You can download it and you just start your 3D printing. Yeah, and it helps on our frontliner, including our policemen, and then the doctor, the nurse. Like they are really in need to have this thing. This is basically like a double protection for them. So we have a face mask, and we have the, what is that, the goggle, right? But
Mhm.
with the shell, it's like one more layer for them, so that to protect the very near contact. Yeah. So if you that's the idea of the 3D printing. Okay.
Right, thanks.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
question from this Zoom:
Mhm.
How to
Mhm.
develop a good sounding timpani roll?
Aha, okay. So this is again, it came to the basic idea. Like a lot of students have the idea of playing fast means playing good equals to good. It's not necessary. When I discovered this idea, um, if you look at a biggest drum that you have, like a 32 inch, or somehow maybe you have a 36-inch timpani, you know. Uh, if you use a very fast stroke on a very low sound, you will realize it doesn't sound good. It will be like you hear the strokes and all that. So that always timpani roll is same like you playing the single tone. Like they always have a sweet spot where it's supposed to be sounds good in that speed, or maybe in the particular place that you hit, right? So just don't get the idea of I should have a faster strokes, and then I will create a very nice timpani roll. No, it's not necessary. Next thing is rudiments that I mentioned before. You must have the left and right hand very balanced, hitting up and down. So if you have a good balancing, and then if you have a good strength that you hit, the position that you hit, like precisely, and then probably you'll get a very good sounding on the timpani roll. So try to develop the idea of hitting same strength, and then the same height, with a slow movement on your drum first, and then try to listen more on your drums sound, so that it sounds like a very fine rolling, instead of a different tone like toku 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 like that, right? So if you have this type of sound, stop and find the problem on your hand gesture, or maybe the position that you hit, and then refine it again, so that you can get it better in the future. All right.
Okay, next from
Mhm,
YouTube. Okay,
mhm,
so it's a question from Robin Fong. How do you
mhm.
learn, practice, and listen to the timpani's tuning and tune it perfectly?
Oh, how long do you need this service?
Uh,
Is it? Oh,
it's
sorry, which one?
how do you
Uh-huh.
learn, practice, and listen to the timpani's tuning and tune it perfectly?
I see. Okay, how do you learn? So I I do the singing a lot. Like somehow my teacher told me singing is one of the best way for you to learn the pitching. So what I do is I always sit, if you have any tune instruments like mallets or maybe a piano or maybe a keyboard, it's fine. So you should start to sing the scale. Like, I mean, if you this is your first time of doing it, just press one note and then sing it throughout the scale. Or maybe instruments like this. So I have la la la. So I will sing this scale la 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 la, right? Things like that. So this is to help you on the tuning. Um, of course, you can sing the different type of intervals, and intervals is very important. You have to know maybe what is the third, what is the fifth, and then how about the minor, minor second, minor third. Do you able to sing all these as well? So just sit down on the keyboard and start to learn like one note by one note. Like if you don't even know how to sing a scale, so just press one note, sing that note. And the most important thing is ask a friend or maybe if you have a tuner, but tuner usually is very difficult because you don't even know whether the tuner is picking up your notes correctly or not.
Mhm.
Ask a friend and listen together with you. When you played it, you sing and ask your friend whether you are singing the correct notes or not. Yeah. So because sometimes I realize some of the students when they do this in their head sound like inside whenever it's example like you wear earphone, you hear your own sound, right? um, in your head sound it might be sounds correct, but when you present it, it doesn't sound correct. It's like something else. So ask your friend and help you on this. I think this will help you a lot as well. Okay.
Okay, thanks. Okay,
Mhm.
so how long do you need to service a tuned percussion instrument? Example, timpani. I think this
Okay.
question means how long would you need to service after you uh, play percussion instrument, for example, timpani.
Oh, okay. All right. So if I mean tuned percussion instruments, there's a lot of type. There is the mallets, which is the wooden, metal and all that. Timpani. So I talk about the timpani first. Uh, if you ask me about servicing the timpani, I would say like the minor service is the one that the player have to look into it every time before and after he play or maybe she play. Yeah. So what I mean on minor service is like you have to make sure the timpani got no clicking sound, like any type of a weird sound that happen on your timpani.
Mhm.
Uh, the next thing is like you always have to clear your head, right? So what is mean by clear your head? Clear means it doesn't mean you wipe your head, all right? Clear your head means you have to make sure your timpani in in a good tuning. Yeah, in a good tuning, especially if you are using calf skin, right? I mean, I know in Malaysia, not much people are using calf skin, but if let's say you are using calf skin, you have to keep in mind on this is a natural skin. Natural skin is very difficult to maintain. Is like every minutes or maybe second you start to change a different tuning. So you have to be very conscious on these things, like how to make sure it don't dry out too much, not too wet, and all these things. So try to make sure the skin get in a comfortable environment. Same thing goes to the plastic, or maybe we call it a Renaissance skin. Um, the skin is just like your body skin, right? If you take it well, it will reflect it to be a good sound in future. So if your body, if it's too dry, then you feel it like, oh yeah, I mean I start to have some cracking on my
Mhm.
hand or something, and then you feel uncomfortable. The same thing happened on the timpani, right? So if you ask me about the servicing, like I call it a major servicing. What is major servicing? A major servicing is like if your pedal is not going to move anymore, you have a stuck pedal, you have what is that? A lot of weird sound come out from different places, or the squeezing sound, and all this thing, then this is a major service. If you have knowledge on how to take it out and re-grease everything, then probably whenever this thing happen, you should start to do it. Yeah. So I would say like as soon as you service the timpani, whenever there's some small tiny sound, then you won't face any big major problem. Yeah. If you have a stuck pedal, that is always a big, huge major problem already. Yeah. So
Mhm.
please take care of this thing. I also did a lot of servicing on timpani, and I realized, especially we Malaysian percussionists, or maybe the student percussionists, first thing, we don't have a good place to store our instruments. Secondly, it's like we don't have a good environment to store the instruments, right? Especially in school. So whenever you bring up the instruments, you should start to like wipe off all those excess, what is that, the dust excess and all this, right? Never have all these things on your timpani or on your any of the instruments, because if you ask a violinist, they never not clean their instruments after they play, because of all those oil from your finger, that touch the wood and all those stuff. So same thing goes to percussion. Like we have a huge instruments, but we never wipe our instruments. Maybe once a year, right? Things like that. So uh, that is how I maintain my instruments, and hopefully this will help you a little bit of a small knowledge. Yeah.
Okay, a question from YouTube. So, what
Mhm.
timpani melody would you recommend for a beginner?
Okay. This is I would say like any type of general hard melody is good for you to practice on all those versatile uh all various of music. Yeah. So I don't promote the particular branding and all that. So I will say like if you're the most important things that you have to know is like what type of sticks that you prefer. Uh, so the only things is like you should try out as many as possible. So I mean, if you have friends that have the different type of timpani melody, just go and try it out. Because some of like me, I don't really use wooden mallet a lot. I mean the shaft, which is the sticks that holding. So um, if you look at it, this is called a shaft. So I don't use wooden nowadays. Last time I used to use a lot of wooden mallet, but not for now. I prefer the bamboo, or something that I want to play it more directly. I will use the carbon. Um, all the mallets, all the sticks that I have is always the choices that I choose is based on the repertoire that I want to perform, the idea, the tone color that I want to present on my music. So it's very difficult for me to recommend like what type of sticks that you should have and what type of sticks that you should buy and all that, because our hand are different. Like my hand is so big, and maybe you have a small hand, and somehow my sticks is a bit too long, it's not suitable for you and all this. So the only advice that I can say is like go try out the methods. That's the idea. All right. Mhm,
Okay, thank you. All right,
mhm.
for the next question, any venue or professional service shop or technician that able to come school and service or repair percussion instruments?
All right. So basically, we need to know the specific places,
Instruments. Mhm.
yeah, and
Yeah.
also the instruments as well. Uh, there is several of percussion professional service shop. Uh, Probably this one we can private message. I think that is much better, because we don't want to do what is that, the uh publicity on all those shops and all that, right? Yeah, it's a bit
Mhm.
very difficult to suggest a different shop, right? So maybe we can answer this in a private message. Is it better, right, Adi? Yeah.
Yes, you can do a
Uh,
private message
uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
on
Mm-hmm.
Zoom. Okay,
Okay.
so let's move on with the next question from YouTube.
Yes.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
again from Robin Fong. How to
Mm-hmm.
achieve smooth and fast timpani rolls?
Same thing that
Yeah, with the
we talked about right
Mhm.
previously. Like maybe you can have the uh, you can look at the previous answer that I tell you. Again, fast is doesn't mean smooth, or smooth it doesn't mean fast, right? So always beware on the sound that you want to create, the tone, the presentation that you want to have, right? A lot of mistake that percussionists always mess up is like when we talk about fast, we talk about loud. When we talk about soft, we talk about slow. So this is not the real idea. We can have slow but big sound. We can have fast but playing a very soft passage. So try to get this idea correctly, and be sure on what tone quality and tone producing that you want to have. Yeah.
Okay, now let's move on with the next question. So by
Mm-hmm.
how to master rhythm without downbeat like upbeat or remove the first downbeat or semiquaver?
Okay. Yeah, I always have this idea as well. I mean, like I practice my metronome in another way around. A lot of people practice your rudiments by using downbeat, tick, tack, 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 and then you have
Mm.
quaver, quaver, quaver. But for me, I will put my upbeat on the offbeat. So I have like gut, 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 and I play the on beat, right? So it'll be one and two and three and four and so my left hand is the metronome. Uh, we realize one thing is like whenever you have a downbeat practicing, right? Uh, we tend to either chase the tempo, or we will start to like lay back a bit. Example like this. So we have this, and then sometimes you feel like okay, I a bit lost track on the metronome, so I play slightly faster. So then you start to say like, hey, I mean, I play very well with the metronome, but not really. Actually, you are chasing the rhythms, or maybe you are chasing the metronome. So the the best way is like put your metronome into the upbeat practice, and then you play your rudiments on the offbeat, so which is the one that without sounding, and then you can't have the time to do chasing on the beat, because whenever you chase a beat, you start to hear the upbeat sounds like a
Mhm.
downbeat with you. All right, so that is one of the very good idea for you to practice now. Mhm.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Now let's move
Yes.
on with the next question by Lee Si
Mhm.
Yuan. Hi,
Mhm.
I've been torn in choosing whether should I go for principal percussion or principal timpani in an orchestra. What makes
Mhm.
this position unique, and what would be your advice to choose? Which one is your favorite?
Um, I mean, I I I would say like if you love to play timpani, then why not just
Mhm.
choose the principal timpani? If you love to play percussion, then you should choose the percussion section. Uh, both both of these uh, position are difficult. If you talk about the professional orchestra, it's not easy. It's like timpani is one of the individual instruments uh, where is holding a very important role in the whole orchestra to support, and um, it's always a lot of repertoire since Baroque period until now. It's like that there's always a timpani involvement. So um, I will say like you should choose based on the the preferable instruments that you want to play. If you like percussion the most, then why not you choose the principal for percussion? If you like the timpani a lot, then maybe you should have a principal timpani position, right? Okay, yeah.
All right, thanks.
Mhm,
Now let's move on with the next question. How to find and
mhm.
produce the best sound in drums that is suitable in each pieces?
Okay, this is uh I will say like the only idea is listen. Listen. That is what Unique Granny told us, right? Uh, I will say like this. I mean, especially on drums, like what type of drums that we're talking about? Like let's say the bass drum, the snare drum, um, the cymbals, and maybe timpani as well. There's always a sweet spot to play on this type of instruments. Before you looking into the character sound that you want to play by yourself, why not try to understand how to create the sound that you think is fit into certain music. Example, like I set a small example like a triangle. If let's say you are playing a passage with flute, or maybe piccolo, like small, very tiny small instruments. So is it a good idea for you to choose a big triangle? mm, it's not necessary. Sometimes when you have small instruments playing, maybe the smaller triangle can fit in quite well. The same thing goes to the sound on the snare drum. Uh, a lot of people ask me like, hey, how can I have a good snare drum sound? Like I would say like, yeah, do you understand the idea of crispy? Yeah. So a lot of people thought like, oh, what is that? Is it food or something? No, I mean like crispy sound on the drums is one of the, I mean on the snare drum is one of the character that we always look into it, right? A lot of school they tune the snare drum without the snare, like there's no snare buzzing at all. So or maybe there's too much snare, like when you hit it, it's like a reverbs of a snare drum, like that. So if you came to have all these problems, like why not at least you try to imitate some sound first. Example, like you listen from YouTube, you have access on all these different uh, place to listen to the sound, and then why not you try to imitate that sound when trying to tune your snare drum and almost similar to that sound that you think uh, what you have heard before, and get the idea of how to get uh, that type of sound, so that you know that in future, if let's say you listen to a certain song and you realize that, oh, I think uh, this this imitate sound is quite suitable for this music, then you retune it your snare drum and fit into the music. Yeah. So that is one of my easiest and fastest idea for you to learn about how to get the sound that you want for the music. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that answer.
Mhm.
Okay, so a question from Jean Wei So. Any tips on differentiating articulation on timpani in terms of tone color?
Okay. That is like I will say like every single sticks that you use, um, try to understand in every single this is one of the very um nice thing that I watch in the video. If you have the chance, you can go to YouTube and search for Evening Granny for the talk. She did teach like student how to listen, how to get the idea of the tone quality, the tone sound. Discover as many sound as possible from your equipment. This is the idea that she want to present. Um, if you look at the sticks, like what our normal knowledge is that we hold the stick at the back like this, and then we just play using our strokes like that. But discover the sound more. Like, have you tried it with your hand holding in front and hit on the drums? Have you tried it to hold it like this way on the middle of the sticks and hit on the drum? Have you tried it in different position of hitting it on the drums? And all these things, when you try as much as possible, hitting on different position on the drum, and you start to get the idea of understanding what and which place will create what type of sound. And then to prevent certain of this sound, you will understand like where is the position that you want to use, right? As I mentioned before, again, all of us, like me and maybe you, right? If I teach you the same technique that I use, and then I hit on this way and I get this type of tone quality, it doesn't mean in the same technique you will create the same sound. No, it doesn't mean that. So try to discover as much as possible. So by yourself, like I seen some weird holding timpani sticks, but creating a very good tone quality sound. Is it wrong? No, it's not wrong. It's just, again, we are doing about, I mean, we are performing on the sound, we are performing on the music, right? We are talking about the music. It's not about how you present it from the look of it. All right. Of course, when we talk about the basic, there must be certain idea where everyone can have the idea of creating certain sound by using the same gesture or maybe the same posture. But again, don't limit yourself for finding the good sound. All right. So try to discover it more. All right. Mhm.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
Yeah.
So for the next question, how to practice a piece perfectly and efficiently with a shorter time?
Haha. All right. Practice. So that's my idea. That means like just the first thing is like you have to ask yourself, what is your weakest point on practicing music? All right. Some of the student they have the weak point of reading the notation. So I will say like if you have a weak point of reading notation, then you have to focus on your reading. You have to know what note in which position, right? Most of us have this problem. Like we can't sight read very fast. All right.
Mhm.
Next thing is about rhythm, your notation rhythm. Like how much idea that you understand on the rhythm. And uh, a, a lot of students have the problem is like they don't understand about the notation presentation. Example, like maybe nowadays you practice crotchet, quiver, semi-quiver, but whenever there's something that came across the semi-quiver, like demi semi-quiver, you start to like you get fear, right? You say like, oh, I don't know how to do this. It's like double of your thinking. Um, it's it's one of the breakthrough. If let's say you want to, uh, if you're reading this notation, uh, if you ask me about how to read it faster, it's like you have to improve yourself as much as possible. If your knowledge is not arrived to the, let's say I say like in the rhythmic, if let's say you are not arrived to the demi semi-quiver level, then you should put some time to practice the rhythmic from the demi semi-quiver rhythms, right? So it's for you is example like you know A, B, C, but what is the next one? If you don't know the next, what is that, D maybe, A, B, C, is it D? It's the D. All right, it's a D. So and then you start to know that okay, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. You'll be very fluent. It's the same thing when you're reading the notation. All right. So This is one of the idea. Now, next thing is if let's say you are not having a problem on the notation, maybe you are having discover the problem that you have. Like maybe it's because of your hand gesture movement problem. Like how come every time I can't hit on my others instruments, or maybe things like that, or maybe your mallets instruments, uh, because of the hand gesture, the crossing, or maybe this place that you have to do a double instead of doing a single stroke, so you have a cross stick on the different notes, then it's because of all these problem. Then you should stop and look at the notation again and try to figure out which hand gesture that you want to play on the next note. So then you get it quite efficiently to play the music. Okay, I hope
Okay,
this will help you.
thanks. Okay, let's move on. There's an interesting question here. Have you
Mhm.
ever 3D printed your own percussion instrument?
Yeah, yes. I 3D printed my timpani mallet myself. I make my own mallets. Uh, I have my own sets of mallets, of course. And then why I do so is because I realized some of the pieces, or maybe some of the music that I want to play in this period, in this hall, in this environment, in different environment, in different hall, it doesn't create the sound that I want. So I start to make my own sticks, and I started to realize when I make my own sticks, I I started to realize a lot of very fun things. I started to realize that hey, I should have this type of sound. I started to look into different sound and started to realize that uh, um, and discover that what type of material can create what type of sound. And I mean, I don't have this knowledge at all last time. And then it's really helped me a lot. Like what type of chord that will make what type of sound that I want, and how fast is the presentation. I mean, how direct is the sound they're going to project, and all these things. And that's why I 3D printed a lot of my core. Yeah, different material create different sound. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So for the next question, how do you
Yep.
practice four mallets skills?
Okay. So I I mean, if you are beginner, you never touch four mallet before, I will say like you should get either the Nancy Johnston school, I mean the books, Nancy Johnston four mallets books, or the Stephen Howard four mallets books, and you should start with that. There's a lot of YouTube that's showing the basic skills on four mallets, right? You can go online. One of the most important things is choose the grip that's suitable for your hand. Like there is plenty of different type of grips. There is a Steven grip, there is a traditional, there is the Burton grip. Uh, you should discover it like yourself more. Like you try on your hand whether you can hold the stick well, and then do some very basic vertical movement just like that, and see whether your hand can move the sticks well. Yeah, if let's say Stephen, especially for Stephen grip, if let's say your hand not so much of strength, or maybe your hand is very small, then you have
Mhm.
a very heavy hit. Probably it's very difficult for you to move your hand. So you should try to discover it. Maybe just go to YouTube and search on it. And there's a lot of people teaching the basic, like very basic, how to hold the sticks. Yeah. So once you discover how to hold the sticks, and then only you start to go into the books and start to um, read through like what type of basic skills that you can practice on. All right. Mhm.
Okay, for the last question for tonight,
Okay.
for instruments involving drumsticks and mallets,
Mhm.
normally we place our forearm at 90 degree. Is it the most
Mhm.
comfortable position?
Uh, If I'm not mistaken, what you're meaning is like this 90-degree forearm, is it? All right, yeah, something like that. All right. Uh, it depends on you are standing or you are sitting. All right. Again, I I I don't use the ruler to measure my my body posture. Uh, one of the reason is because again, our spine, like my spine or my hand, and your spine and your hand, your head, we are different, right? Uh, I will say like that is the standard of body posture where you feel comfortable. I mean, I've seen a lot of students when I talk about comfortable, they really make themselves comfortable. Again, what I mean on comfortable is like you have to have a very steady body posture when you play on instruments, right? Some of the students start to say like, hey, I want to be very comfortable so that I can play pretty well. So they cross their leg, like this and standing cross leg like this. So but the problem is when you cross your leg, you are standing by using one leg. So when I push you, you start to fall down, right? And this means that you don't have a steady posture. So if you don't have a steady posture, you cannot grab your stick, uh, grab your stick firmly. Then you start to, you doesn't play the things with very precise. Okay, so position wise, if you talk about like 90 degrees and all this, is always a practices that you can look into it. Body posture, they have a idea. I mean, like a structure that you can follow, but it's not necessary to have the measurement. Like, okay, I must have this, I must have that, right? Things like that, unless you are doing the marching, right? Then it's different thing, all right? Because marching is a showcase. Like, if you must have a very nice even and equivalent people that presenting certain things, all right? So but again, they don't force on the technique, which is your wrist and all that, like you must have this type of degree or that type of degree. It's not a huge thing to look into it. Again, you should look into your sound more than the structure that you should change. All right. If you can't create this sound, this tone, then probably you have to change your posture and change your idea of standing. Yeah, so that you can create that sound better. All right. Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
All
All right,
right.
everyone, we have come to the end of tonight's webinar. So for more info, please go
Mhm.
to our JPO Facebook page, press like and follow the button. Not follow the button, follow button. Yeah, click it. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Okay, if you want to rewatch and listen to this broadcast again, it will be available after this broadcast ended. The recorded live broadcast will be available for you to watch at our page. So you guys have been great. Thank you so much for all the questions. I hope you guys got the answer that you wanted. So for those waiting for your answer, please stay put. Don't go anywhere yet. Mr. Cheng Kok will be answering your question in writing. So that's it for tonight. Be safe, and be healthy. Do stay at home. So I will lead tonight's prayer uh, for to end the program. So please pray in whatever faith you believe in for the COVID-19. So Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma inni a'udzubika minal barsi wal juna'i wal juzami wa min sayyil askam. Oh Allah, I seek your refuge from leprosy, insanity, mutilation, and from all serious illness. Bismillahillazi la yadhuru ma'ismi syai'un fil ardi wala fis sama'i wa huwa al-samiyun alim. In the name of Allah, with whose name nothing on the earth or in the heaven can cause harm, and He is the all-hearing and the all-knowing. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azabannar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Okay, that's it for tonight. Have a good night and see you all at the same time tomorrow until 20th of April. Bye bye.